Shane, I talked to you a lot about the Dahmer series. Me and my wife obviously watched all of it as quickly as possible because it was so good and I loved it. What's his name? Evan Peters as Dahmer, I thought was just great. But yeah, that being said, I want to bring this up because I thought this was very interesting. This is coming to us from the guys over at Variety. And apparently the Dahmer series, and I had seen this like on a little scale the other day that had the two shows you just brought up, Game of Thrones, or what's it called? House of Dragon. And Rings of Time, or whatever, Rings of Power. And it showed like their viewership as the weeks had gone by. Mm-hmm. And this is speaking a little bit to what we were talking about.
That's a nice segue.
Of when it can work the other way. Even though Dahmer all came out at once, it still was rising above them week after week.
Of word of mouth.
After week, right? And yeah, and it's so high now, guys, that again, this article is from Variety. You can see the headline. Jeffrey Dahmer series Monster debuts on Nielsen Top 10 with the 10th biggest streaming week ever. That's amazing. This is awesome. I love this series. It may have a lot to do with Halloween and the time we're in of being scared. So this kind of plays in and works with all that. It was released towards the end of September, but it's dragged in, now here it is, the 21st. So
honestly, what I would credit it to is just what people want to watch. I think people are getting burned out, such as myself, of effects. What brings you to Dahmer? I guarantee you the performances are incredible. And, the story, the relationships.
Yeah, and America loves its true crime.
There you go.
That's
right.
for sure.
But, I'm sure the relationships are there, and you really want to explore that, and you want to know more.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Whereas, like House of Dragon, I could care less about these relationships.
I know.
But the effects.
That's how I felt about Rings of Power. Good. Like, I gave Rings of Power a shot. I just didn't care.
Yeah.
Like it looked great. Like the costumes were good. I could complain about nothing other than what was the reason I wanted to continue watching it, and I just couldn't find one. So,
and it does look like, just based on that, people are falling off these series, getting on Dahmer, and then sticking to it
right,
to the end.
Right. And I want to segue that into this, Shane. I was telling you a little bit earlier before we started the show. I wanted to save this and hear your reaction, but eBay, Amazon, and a few of the other big online outlets have now made it against the rules to sell any kind of costumes that reference or look like Jeffrey Dahmer, because I guess they feel like people are glorifying him by going out,
making him a celebrity,
dressed as him. Which I thought was just hilarious. What a country we live in. Who cares? First of all, I don't really care whether people do it or not. He making him a celebrity, guys. He is a celebrity. There's nothing we can do about that. Like, who Jeffrey Dahmer is. I know who Jeffrey Dahmer is. You knew who Jeffrey Dahmer was before this series. I knew who Jeffrey Dahmer was before this series.
I think it's silly too, because it's like, we're gonna stop this. And it's like, okay, I'll just make a Jeffrey Dahmer costume. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, right. For sure, because
just get a white
all
button
it is,
right, blood stains on
all
it.
it was there was a few certain places that had made the logical connection that this is a good idea, and was just kind of selling it as a package deal. So you get the orange jumpsuit from when he was in prison, the black T-shirt underneath, and like the glasses. And some of them were even selling like this Evan Peters face cutout with a string that you just put over.
Awesome.
And, right? Come on, right? And like I said, look, again, we knew who Jeffrey Dahmer was before this series, and we know who he is after. He's a celebrity whether we want him to be or not. So is Charles Manson. So is John Wayne Gacy. So is Ted Bundy. So is Hitler. We just can't help that these people are what they are.
Do you know if anyone dressed up as Manson after Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? That sounds like a great costume idea.
Maybe. It wasn't like a big thing, a big role, and this is like a whole different series. Yeah, for sure.
That's why I think it's silly, because it's just like, you're not profiting on Dahmer, the real person, monster, atrocity. You're profiting on the series. Now, if you didn't want that to happen, then don't make a series.
Right.
But at this point,
anything,
we're a little too
Netflix
late.
should get out in front of this and make monster, the Dahmer costume.
Well, they should, because then maybe they can pay for Knives Out.
Right. Yeah, they're gonna have a long way to go with that. But yeah, and I thought this was interesting. Again, I think it speaks a lot to the country or the world we live in. To me, I think she's silly. That being said, I will say, just quickly, Jeffrey Dahmer didn't murder my friend or my brother or anyone that I know or love. And if he had of, I'm sure I would feel differently. I probably just couldn't help it, as most of the victims' families feel currently, right? But you just can't stop stuff like this. And I think for, the CEO of eBay and Amazon to come out and say, hey, we're getting behind that, this isn't cool. I think it's just silly. And it shouldn't be. If something's popular and people are loving it, then they should have the ability to, if I can go to Black Adam dressed like Black Adam, then
I can't stand the hypocrisy of companies treating us like children.
Yeah.
Oh, don't do this because that's wrong. But you can go buy a pack of cigarettes that are going to kill you.
Right.
You can go buy processed food from all these fast food chains that's going to lead to poor health. Oh, it's Halloween, so stuff yourself full of Mars and Hershey bars to give you diabetes. Right. But don't dress up as Dahmer. Don't do it. Don't. Oh my God! For heaven's sake.
Right, for sure,
for sure.
And again, to me, it's just a little silly. But I'm glad to see this news, coming to us from Variety about. First of all, a couple things. A, that Nielsen is somehow involved in our TV ratings with streaming.
You were just talking about that.
Thank you. Right, we've been talking about it, but it's happened. So Nielsen, thank you. We appreciate your due diligence. And
where because we were talking about this when we were talking about Hocus Pocus 2.
Yes.
And where do those numbers really add up?
Right.
Did you see Hocus Pocus 2 on the Nielsen's chart? Or I guess those are probably going to come
television.
out later.
It's not for TV or not for movies. It's only for television.
I thought it was streaming
or series
because it had like streaming hours.
I think it only counts for series though. So, yeah, see, it says right here it's TV series.
I see.
So yeah, it won't count a single thing. So I bet though, if it even had like 3 or 4 episodes, I bet they'd probably count that as a series too. But yeah, so yeah, again, happy that Nielsen's there doing their due diligence, get to the bottom of what these numbers mean and who's watching what. Really crazy though to think that more people are watching this and continue to steadily increase over House of the Dragon and Lord of the Rings. That is wild to me.
Again, it makes sense. I really think people are just like, this is all glitz and beauty and it looks great, but there's no substance.
Yeah.
And Dahmer, you can't rely on special effects. You can't rely on it looking pretty.
Well, it's something you often say all the time too, which is movies are meant to make you feel. And you got to watch it, dude, because I promise you there is a certain kind of feel, because again, and it's almost like you're a fly on the wall and you're kind of watching all this, and it's similar to the idea of Michael Myers is going to come out and kill this lady we're watching cut carrots, right? But Michael Myers was never real and he never did that. Where we're getting ready to watch what actually might have happened, what was said, what was did, how it was done, and just the idea that we know it's coming, it gives you this certain feeling, like it's you always see irony. That cliche feeling of girl, get out of there, he's behind you, that feeling, but to like such a surreal, like, oh no, and the worst part of it is that you can't do anything. The only thing you can do is shut it off or continue to experience and see what's going to happen.
Well, that's a great narrative effect. It's called a poetic irony. It's when the audience is more aware of what's going on than your characters in the story. And it was used successfully for eons, right? But we don't see it that often this day and age in our movies or our TV show. It's always about leading the audience along with us. So I love how that this show, turns that on its head. It's just like, no, the facts, what's going on, and we're just going to build that suspense up until it really pays off, even though the payoff's coming. That's just, really good craftsmanship, storytelling, and it's good to see that people are aware of that and checking out this show.
Yeah, right. And that's, like you said, what's super exciting is that people are, wanting something different, right? They're not, look, I've avoided talking about this for a long time, and I thought coming out of Black Adam, or going into it, I thought this is what we would be talking about on the show today, honestly, is comic book fatigue. And I hate that. I hate that phrase. It's been said to me a long time, and I think that for a long time I've said that, what is that? That's not real. And I think kind of as a collective that we are kind of hitting some sort of fatigue with those movies. That being said, again, when they're good, winning cures all. We don't care. Give us all of it. We want it every day. But it's just, it becomes, like I said, with Black Adam, we get that box check kind of feel going on. And when you get that, you really lose it. What makes a real good comic book movie is when it's a good movie, I think. Even if you took away, I always say about Captain America, the Winter Soldier, what's the secret agent movie where Bourne? You make that Jason Bourne. Great movie. Just as good. It's literally just as good.
Yeah, it didn't need to be Captain
That's
America.
right.
And it just made it better.
Right, exactly, and I think that is the real difference between a lot of the things we get now. Is a Captain America Civil War, or Winter Soldier wasn't trying to check a bunch of boxes. I mean, it was just trying to make a good. They were trying to make a good movie, and then Captain America was just the icing on the cake, And I think with a lot of this, it's becoming more spectacle, and there's only so much spectacle we can take and enjoy, right? I mean, I've seen Kong fight Godzilla on an IMAX screen, guys, and I thought it was awesome. I mean, it was amazing looking, and the world we live in, to see it look so real and so big on such a giant screen, that's awesome. But there's only so much of that you could take, right? Like, I don't know how they could do it, but I find it hard for me to be sitting in a theater for Godzilla vs. Kong 3, And so, yeah, I think there is a little bit of that fatigue coming.
Well, with comic book movies, when they first started out, and it made sense, they had to be an event. Each one was an event. Oh, Captain America's finally coming to the screen. Oh, we got the whole Avengers, or, whatever the event was. Well, now when you're making, 5 or 6 movies a year plus 8 or 9, shows, it's like, God, how many events are there? I'm exhausted. It's like, going to a friend's wedding once a year, it's like, yeah, that's cool. But, getting invited and it's like, oh man, I got to go to 6 weddings every year. It's like, oh no, I'd rather just stay at home. So I think that's kind of where the whole idea of the comic book movies have to be this big event. I think that's a lot of times where the fatigue comes from, because it can't just be a movie. Oh, here's the new, whatever it is, Wolverine or whatever. It's like, no, this summer it's the big,
right?
Right. It's just like they all can't be that.
It goes
big.
back to that old trailer voice, right? This summer,
yeah, that's right.
right. The biggest movie ever seen.
The world's might end again.
A must see.
But some superhero guy is going to save us all.
Right, exactly.
Find out which one.
Right. Or what was the one for Tropic Thunder? What was the name of that? Scorcher. But this time it's cold. It's different, right? Like, come on.
So, he's got the 2 babies this time.
Exactly. Literally, just everything's like one-upped. Like that kind of feels like what we're getting to, guys.
Yes, it is.
We're living in a world where we're gonna get Scorcher 6.
We're living in Tropic Thunder,
but it's different.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like that's what we get, right? Like this movie kind of. Black Adam fits in that in a way of that it's checking all these boxes, but again, it's Black Adam and The Rock this time, so it's different, right? But yeah, and I think we can only handle that so much as fans, right? And I think honestly, for me personally, I can say that it's feeling like I'm starting to get some sort of fatigue. I don't want to say it. I don't want to speak it because I don't know if that's what it is truly. I think I'm just, there just hasn't been a lot of great comic book material coming out, guys, to be honest with you. Because again, the Batman was awesome. And I love that movie. I bought the 4K giant $100 box set. I haven't even opened it. And that's how much I love that movie. But since then, Shane, as you know, I usually buy all the steel books for the Marvel movies. I haven't bought any of them. I haven't bought Thor Love and Thunder. I didn't buy Doctor Strange. I mean, everything, Shang-Chi even, everything has kind of just been either that was all right or that was good.
Shang-Chi on Disney Plus. I really want to see Tony Leung.
Oh, I mean, it's the best part of the movie.
Oh, I'm sure. He's incredible.
And it really is his movie. And that is the best part. And Shang-Chi, of all the ones I named, it's one that I'm like, but it was really the last one that I felt like it was still coming downwards, but Shang-Chi was still in a good enough range for me to be like, I like it. And then, ever since then, we've just slowly stepped down and down and down, and to a point where, again, I'm starting to feel like there may be actually some sort of truth to that whole theory of comic book fatigue. And maybe the critics are feeling it too with stuff like Black Adam is a perfect example of maybe people are starting to feel like, hey, if I would have seen this movie 10 years ago, I'd have been like, whoa, rockin' ass, love it. But now that I've seen everything, everywhere, all at once, literally.
I think that's the problem with comic book movies too, like with critics. Instead of people, like you said, coming in, it's like, okay, let's see how Black Adam is. It's like, okay, let's stack it up with the Endgame. Let's stack it up with Guardians. Did I like it as much as Captain America? You're instinctually comparing it to all these other superhero movies. Was it as good as Shazam? Blah, blah, blah. So, it's I think it's more difficult for a comic book movie to stand on its own 2 feet. The Thor, God and Thunder, Love and Thunder. What is that, the 4th Thor movie?
Yeah, Thor 4.
So you're comparing it to 3 other Thor movies, plus his Avengers appearances.
That's a good point. Before that movie started, Shane, I remember looking down at that time, everyone was with me in that movie. My wife, my kid, Lucas, Trevor, Noah, Ethan, we're all there. And the movie's just about to get ready to start. And I look down the row at them all and I go, hey guys, before this starts, I just want to remind you all that this is the 4th installment of this franchise. Do you guys know of a 4th movie that's good in a franchise? Don't worry, I'll wait.
There's not a lot of 3s that are good.
But could you name a 4th?
Oh, man.
There ain't none, Shane. I just don't know of any. So that
we were talking about Halloween 4. It's not great.
Again,
but it's okay.
Sure. But what we were doing when we were sitting there waiting for that movie to start, we were expecting like the best Thor movie.
But usually,
because like Ragnarok was the 3rd, and I think we can agree that was the best Thor movie.
I think that was the best Thor
movie. It still
movie.
is. And it was the 3rd one, so we were thinking, okay, this could be, and then I started to realize that, I mean, there is some things that I think are big, like Rocky 4. Toy Story 4. There is some things
those are good.
Yes, that are kind of outliers in that 4 range. But man, most things that got 4 installments.
Crystal Skull. There's Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
Right.
I guess we'll be talking about that one soon.
Or even like Alien, which I love 1, 2, and 3. And as much shit 3 gets, I really think 3 is a solid film.
I think 4 Resurrection's pretty solid too. I didn't have a problem with that one.
But is that not the one with the like white looking alien in space? Is that 5? Is there a 5th one? I've seen them all.
So the alien's like captured. It's kind of like this whole imprisoned, like hospital-ish, but industrial. And like Sigourney Weaver, they brought her back to life. Like they brought Ripley back to life.
Yeah.
Cloned her.
Yeah. And then she has to fight it at the end in the big machine.
It is kind of lighter color, maybe not white, but yeah. It does look silly.
It was silly. Yes.
But it was a pretty cool movie up until the end.
It was okay, But again, comparing it to Alien 1, 2, or even 3. Again, I think 3 takes a lot of heat. Was it David Fincher?
It was.
Yeah, that did 3, Fincher. And I thought, man, honestly, going into that movie, I thought it was going to be bad because of all the negative stuff. It
has some really good performances in there too. It has some really good actors.
Yeah, I mean, I like even some of the ideas and the setup of it, like where it's at, Anyways, but yeah, and that's what I was telling them is there's not a lot of 4th installments in movies that we see that are good, let alone 3. Terminator's another good example. 4 was Genesis, right? I believe.
No, I think 4 was the Christian Bale one.
That's Genesis, isn't it?
No, Genesis is the one where they retconned.
Yeah, you're right. I can't remember the name of
Salvation?
it. That's it. But God, that's the worst one.
Yeah, probably.
Right.
That's the only one I skipped. That and 3.
But yeah, for sure. But yeah, anyways, guys, so let us know what your guys' thoughts are on all of this Jeffrey Dahmer monster stuff. To me, again, this is exciting. If you guys haven't seen it, man, you got to go check it out. Clearly, most of you have seen it. But if you haven't, you got to go check it out, especially while it's October. We're getting close to Halloween. This would be perfect to throw on like the last week of Halloween.
And it's on Netflix?
Yes, and start finishing it up right around towards when Halloween's ending. This would be awesome. So also, while I can remember, I got to go back here in the next few days and do my yearly rewatch of Freddy vs. Jason, Shane. I do it every year. Love that movie to death. We were just talking about it on the show the other day, and so I've just been getting hyper and hyper as we lead up to that too.
Yeah, and I need to borrow your Nightmare on Elm Street 4 because that's the only one they don't have on HBO Max.
Which one is 4? Is that? Oh, okay, yeah. Okay,
it's a sequel to 3, but they recast Patricia.
Well, all
Arquette.
my Nightmare on Elm Streets are on DVD.
Okay, that's okay. That I can't get it at all. So
Right.
I'll make do. I'll make do.
For sure. But yeah, guys, if you haven't had a chance, go check out the Jeffrey Dahmer series and let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below, what you guys are thinking about it being, bigger than The Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. Again, that's pretty shocking. There's no way we would have ever guessed that. I would have bet every dollar that I ever owned that wasn't going to happen. So yeah, and again, it's for a reason. So go check it out, guys.